Sharon, Janie, and Alex, that's 5. So, Anthony, you can put the meeting live.
All right, you guys are live.
Thank you. So let me call to order the meeting of the Public Library Board of Directors for June. And in attendance so far are Ralph, Moyna, Sharon, Janie, and Alex. 5 out of 9 constitutes a quorum. Janie, do you know whether Mary's going to be joining us?
Yes, they didn't have the.
I realized that. None of us
so,
had it.
Yeah. So they're supposed to be joining, yes.
Okay, I wanted to open the meeting with a moment of silence in memory of Mary's father who passed away last month, but I don't want to do it till she's on. So why don't we come back to that when Mary joins us?
Okay.
Are there any members of the public who are listening who would like to make a comment? Okay, if not, then we'll move. Sorry.
Excuse me a minute. I just got an email from Mary, and she said, for the record, please note that I'm unable to get in and I don't have a number to call.
Can we send her a number?
Yeah, I'm thinking. Anthony, can you tell me the number?
Hold on one second. Let me email it to you.
Okay. And then I'll just shoot her, and then she'll be at least able to call in.
Yeah.
Oh, here, and Sherelle.
All right, I just emailed you the dial-in information, Chris.
The call-in information
Yes.
for Mary. Okay, good.
Thank you, Anthony.
Mm-hmm. And I also have one attendee that's waiting.
How do you mean, sir?
I guess for public speaking, I have a person named Mary listed as an attendee with their hand raised up.
Okay.
Do you guys have like a public speaking portion for this?
Yes,
meeting?
we do.
Okay.
That's probably now.
Yeah, it could be. I'm going to send Sherelle just.
Can you invite her in?
I can allow her to speak. Hold on. You are unmuted, Mary.
Yeah, here it is. Telephone. Okay. Forward. I got Mary, and Sherelle is having the same problem. So I'm sending this phone number to her also. Okay.
Is that Mary Mann who's on?
Yes.
Hey, Mary.
There, yeah. Whew.
Okay.
She said, I'm on, and
I also tried to call in at 7, and I was on because my internet was giving me some problems, and I was just on for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then my internet started working. So sometimes, people are just in the waiting room waiting.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to admit, right? Okay, so Sherelle is in the same boat. So I sent her the call-in information as well. So I think she should be,
Okay.
be able to join.
So please add Mary Mann to the list of attendees. So that's good. We have 6 members in attendance.
I don't know what to do. Okay.
Okay. Mary, item number 2 is addition to the agenda. I was going to suggest if you will find it acceptable to have a moment of silence in memory of the passing of your father last month, because we've not had a board meeting since that happened, and we all want to express our condolences, but we couldn't have a service, but we want you to know we're thinking of you and know how much you cared for him and how difficult it is at this time. So I wonder if we could have a moment of silence in honor of Mary's father. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Alex.
How's your family doing, Mary?
We're doing. Thank you. It's been a very difficult time with a lot of illnesses and things going on, but we are managing.
Good. Well, I know
Thank
from
you.
personal experience how big and great a family Mary has. When I was mayor, they had a big reunion in Norwalk. They had to like rent 3 hotels to
Yes.
find enough rooms for everybody. So, give
Thank
them
I've been
credit.
seeing a bunch of your family recently.
I heard.
Like here, and you heard. Okay. Yeah. So I saw them. I've been seeing them on the computer, and I saw them in
Yes.
person. And I know your niece just did her moving up ceremony today.
Yesterday, yes.
Yeah, and Zaire and Zion have been like real leaders at the school. So it's great work.
All right. I think I don't see that any members of the public have called in. Anthony, are you still there?
I
Yes, I am
think this
still
is
here.
probably Sherelle.
I think
Okay.
Sherelle is calling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Sherelle.
Hey, Sherelle.
Hi, everybody.
There she
Okay.
is.
Well,
Yeah, good.
Okay, so we'll move on to item number 4, approval of the minutes of May 14, 2020. My only comment to our Telesco services is please do a spell check on these. There are several spelling errors. I don't want to point them all out, but there are several spelling errors that perhaps you could correct. But I had no substantive changes to the minutes to recommend. So is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion
I
to.
move.
Uh,
I'll second.
So,
Who moved? Was that Moina?
It's me. Yep,
Moina
Moina.
moved, Ralph seconded. Any revisions people would like to make? Other than spelling? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions of people who were not present? I think so, not. Okay, then they're approved unanimously. Okay. So what we'd like to do tonight is focus mainly on the reopening plan. But before we do that, since that's going to be a longer discussion, if you go to item 5C on the agenda, we've come across 2 statements on the crisis of racial oppression in America issued by the Urban Libraries Council and by the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. Both of these statements were sent out, and I would hope that we'd be able to endorse both of them as an expression of solidarity with the protests and the families that have been affected so severely. So would there be a motion to approve items 5C, A, and B, and then if people want to discuss them, we'd be glad to do so.
I'll make a motion. This is Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
I'll second that. I second.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay.
seconded by Sharon. I found both statements highlighted very important issues on the role of libraries and really stressed the need for affirmative action, not just expressions of support. So I thought those were things that we can focus on in the future. Any further discussion about these? If not, then all in favor of endorsing them, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition and abstentions, then they're approved unanimously. And finally, before we get to our opening discussion, I wanted just to have the board express its appreciation for the excellent efforts of the public library staff to promote access to our materials for residents during the COVID virus emergency during our closure. I've heard lots of comments from people who let me know how much they've appreciated their ability to download books for their Kindles, to access databases, and to hear about programs, and to continue to receive emails from Sherelle and Chris and Vicky and Cindy and Lori and all the people who've been keeping everybody in touch. So I just felt the board should express our thanks to them for these really excellent efforts. Chris, do you want to say anything about some of these efforts that have been going on?
Oh, it's been remarkable. And this is, I'm so pleased the board is going to make a statement, and I can share that with the staff. I send out an email to the whole staff usually Monday morning. And we're having an all staff meeting tomorrow afternoon. So I can convey that.
I'll send you an email. I'll send an email that you can read to them tomorrow, maybe.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
good. And then Sherelle and I met with the supervisors today, 3-hour meeting, 11 to 2. And yeah, I know she's laughing. Yeah. We'll be going through the plan, and we really appreciate the board's help with this. We were saying you'll have a lot of comment, it'll just help us as we go through and think about these phases. But I think the increase in materials has been great, and we found that Overdrive is one of our suppliers of ebooks and audiobooks, has now gone to, I always call it pay-per-view, but what is it, Cheryl? Cost per use model. Cost per use, that's what it is. So we can, Cheryl, do you mind if I say you're looking into the fire next time, or would you like to talk about that?
Sure.
Okay, why don't you talk about that? Yeah, go ahead. It's so wonderful.
So basically, it started with my family. We were trying to figure out what's going to be our next family read. And, those of us who were old enough to have read The Fire Next Time the first time by James Baldwin, wanted to reread it. And the kids wanted to read Coates's, I think it's Between the World and Me. So we won. And I mentioned it to a Board of Ed member. I think it was Colin Holston, and he's like, yeah, we definitely should do this, but as a community. And so I think Mary, I mentioned it too. And so what we were thinking is trying to have a community read, just because the things that he mentioned, like back in the 50s, are still going on today. And it would just, people have had really meaningful dialogues from the police chiefs, with some of the state senators and state reps. And, I've had a chance to get on some of those calls, and they've been very meaningful. And so we were thinking maybe we should have something like that with the library, and maybe just have a community read.
Sounds terrific. What's cost per use, could I ask?
Oh, and so that's how it ties in, is that, in other words, and if anyone's ever borrowed from Overdrive, you have to get on a hold list, or the copies are about $65 a copy. So it's very awkward for something like a community read. So if we can go to cost per use, we just put it out there, and all we pay for are the people who use it. And then Sherelle is going to check with the Baldwin Foundation. We would also like to get hardcover and softcover books to give out. When you do a community read, it's really great to be able to get, we'll have a lot of extra copies in the library too, but to also have books to give out. And then if we can have the audio and the ebooks on Overdrive at cost per use, and anyone can go on and download it. There's no waiting list or anything like that. So we're trying to get all those ducks in the row, so when it launches, we'll be able to supply everyone. And Sherelle and I were saying today, I read that when I was in college, and that's a different person. And I bet a lot of us who are older, in the community did that. Now we're going to read it again. So it's
I'm
great.
looking forward to it.
Good.
So this sounds like a great idea. Maybe we could link the timing of it to when we do part of our reopening. Because if you're going to have hard copy books to give out, when we announce we're going to be giving out and people can come and pick up, maybe that would be
Curbside.
to announce it. That's a great idea.
That's a really good idea. Curbside, yeah. So Yeah, that's, that, yeah,
Thank you, Cheryl. That's great.
yeah,
Most
isn't it?
important book I ever read
Thank
in my
you.
life was Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison.
Oh, yeah.
Keep-
Yeah.
These are still
What
so
about
good.
that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, so I'll send you an email that you can, 2 sentences you can read tomorrow to the
That
staff.
would
Thank
be,
everybody.
that would be great. Yeah, and it's not until the all staff, the Zoom meeting is not until I think 4 o'clock, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris, are you able to pull up the state?
Fingers crossed, everyone. Here we go. Thanks to Anthony.
All right. So we received, I think on Monday, I think on Sunday, we received this 20-some page
Mhm.
statement.
Excuse me, while you're explaining, Al, can everyone see it, by the way? Can
Yes.
everyone see? Oh, okay. So what I'm gonna do, there's a lot of introductory and all that, and you sent it to everyone. So I'll go right down to that first page. I think it's page 6. Is that okay, or did you want to go through the preamble stuff?
Well,
Page
why
6
don't we
is
go through
fine.
always go
Okay,
through
whatever
everything
you
in case
want.
anybody has a question.
Okay, whatever. I'll just click it along here. I'm
All
just
right, so I
thrilled.
just want to say that we received this just on Sunday night and distributed it to the board right away. And then, Chris and Lamond and the city staff have been looking at it. I looked at it, talked over with Chris. Chris discussed it today with supervisors. So it's still pretty new. And again, very difficult stuff, no magic answers, no precedents, no good models to base it on. And it's just some good judgment. The Times yesterday had a very good story about the 5 or 6 principles that people ought to apply to evaluate risks of doing things. And it really comes down to common sense and caution. And I hope that's what we can together review this plan about. So, Chris, you want to start scrolling? And
Sure. Before I start with the scrolling, I just want you all just to think about something as we're doing this. And today we agreed as supervisors to try to grab June 17th is, you've all heard, that's Lamont State for this sector here. We want to start with the return of the books. So we're just basically opening up the book drops, and that'll be going out in the newsletter. So we'll say that we have something cute, I don't know, bring back the books, whatever. But what we'd really like to start, which is a significant thing, is curbside pickup. And I love the idea of using the Fire Next Time distribution as a way to do it during curbside. But we would like to think about July 8th. That's after the 4th of July week, and that would be Tuesday. And we like the idea of being available Tuesday through Saturday. We haven't gotten down to what hours yet, but giving people the Saturday and covering 5 days. And that would be holds, requests that people do online, and also call-in requests like, hey, I want some really good mysteries, that kind of thing, different from a hold where you're going for a specific book. So as we're going through that, please give that some thought, because I think you can really help us with this plan. And Sherelle, we were there together for 3 hours, so anything that, well, yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so
Can
I'm gonna.
Chris, before you start scrolling, have people had a chance to look at this at all? I can see.
We went through it as a group today.
No, I mean the board, the other board members.
Yes, I reviewed it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. This I reviewed it.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So we've all had a first to read about it.
So
Okay.
stop me if there are any comments. I'm going down to, I think it's page page 6, because this is the whole sector. Yeah, here we are. And so there's the June 17th. That's why it was a small thing. We were going to start it on June 20th. And we thought, look, June 17th is the date people are putting out there. Let's try to do it then. I also want you to know that some of our neighboring libraries are looking at doing curbside July 1st, July 2nd, right around there. So I think that was a good decision by supervisors to try to get July 8th, just to let people get through that holiday that precedes it.
I just want to say that Chris and I have chatted about this too. You know, it doesn't really matter what other libraries are doing in terms of making us feel anxious to do something at the same time. It's really what we feel as a bigger city than, say, Westport, what's safe and reasonable for us to do without regard to what they're doing. So we're not going to be rushing to keep up with the neighbors unless we feel it's reasonable to do so.
Good. Yeah. Now, here's the challenge right here in the beginning. There's some verbiage we'll look at later on. It's the 50% capacity. Okay, so we talked about some things today that Alex had mentioned about letting people into the libraries in shifts. We'll have a shift from 9 to 11, 9 to 12, something like that. Then everybody out, take a period of time for a cleaning, then people come in for the next shift. The other thing that is our work to do as supervisors, trying to determine what is the capacity of the library. And I've been on several Zoom calls with other libraries and the state library and all. Everyone's challenged by this. But we really only have capacity for the community room and the auditorium. So what I've asked people to do is to look at specific areas. Like you think like of Sono, the parlor with all the computers in it. Now that has to be rearranged. How many people could we have in there? How many people could we have in the other parlor with the tables? How many kids in that teen room? You know, and just go through our places and look at how many people we can fit with social distance in both staff areas and public areas. The immediate concern are the staff areas, because come June 17th, we have staff in there now doing these hotlines in both buildings, and they're scheduled from 10 to 2. And the building services are in trying to get a thorough cleaning. So there are people in there already, but when we start on June 17th, that's going to be scheduling a lot more staff. So we're going to have to really have it set up for social distancing. There's more in the plan, but just these are kind of the overall things we're talking about today. And like I say, please just stop me at any point here.
Well, Chris, maybe I could just follow up a bit on your discussion about the capacity issue. I mean, I think what I've tried to sort of suggest, let's just stop scrolling for a minute.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I think what we're trying to think about is how to avoid that situation in which in Walmart, some Walmart associate goes up to a customer and says, "You're not wearing a mask," and the customer punches the associate in the nose. You know, that's kind of the retail approach to doing this stuff, in which you're dealing with individual patrons and what they are doing or not doing. What I've suggested that maybe Chris and the supervisors could look at is what I call the wholesale approach, which is that rather than dealing with individual customers and how long they are and where they are, we just deal with public in shifts and be able to say that the library is going to have 2, 3, or 4 shifts, 2 hours each, 3 hours each, 4 hours each, whatever. And that there will be a capacity check by the guards of how many people can come in for each shift. They'll be there for their 2 hours or whatever. Then the bell will ring. Everybody will be asked to depart. There'll be a period to clean the computers and the desks and restrooms or whatever. And then the next shift will come in. So that we're dealing with everybody on a kind of an equal basis and not saying, you've been here 2 hours, now you have to leave, and what did you use, and we have to clean it, and blah, blah, blah. So that's what I hope we can think of as avoiding wherever possible these retail interactions where the staff has to approach an individual patron for whatever reason in order to enforce these general social distancing issues.
Yeah, and the other thing we learned today in our meeting is that we have enough keyboards that each staff and mice, that each staff member can have their own. We're still going to have to wipe down in between patrons when we get to that point. But for this phase, when we're having like the next phase, July 8th with the curbside, that'll be all staff in the building. So that will help a lot if they each have their own keyboard and mouse.
But I wanted to just chime in. I guess, like, I mean, I understand the, you know, the 2-hour time periods, but there are, I mean, likely to be instances where somebody's mask is on when they come in and then it's like falling off their face. And, you know, I mean, I can see all, or like people are too close together in the library. Like what would, I mean, won't the staff need to get involved in those types of situations?
Well, yeah. What do you think? Sure, go ahead, Chris.
One thing I was gonna say is Sherelle has been working on finalizing the plans for our new security guards. I don't want to open to the public until, actually, I'd really like to have them in place for curbside. And so we can handle it the way we handle other issues in the library. When someone's drunk or sleeping or recalcitrant, we usually try to have a security guard handle it. So that's kind of a general answer, but I think we're gonna need that backup initially if to handle people coming in, not masked, but like you say, also once they get in the building, being appropriate. So yeah, so we won't start until the guards are in place.
I meant, sorry.
So
Hi.
Chris,
I have a question.
okay.
My question is, so what happens if people show up? Who's responsible for turning them away once we've reached capacity? Is it going to be the guards or is it going to be staff?
Well, Mary, just if I could, just before Chris answers.
Okay.
Look, we're going to be publicizing whatever the plan is.
Okay.
Well in advance. Now, whether or not, depending on this 50% capacity and stuff, we want people to register before they come.
Okay.
Or something like that, but it won't just be, hey, all you people, you're late, get out.
Right.
There'll be some plan that's publicized so people will know. And maybe if we decide to go with this idea of shifts, people can indicate in advance that we're coming to the morning shift, the noontime shift, the early afternoon shift, or the late afternoon shift. You know, something like that. But, you know, we do have this 50% limit. It's a state-imposed requirement, and the city is doing the same thing. So we've got to figure out a way to make it work. I just want to give people as much advance warning and have them join us in the planning as possible, while reducing the friction with staff members about these limitations. Sorry, Chris.
No, I think, no.
Well, I have a question. So we have to have the social distancing. So how will you manage that, even with the employees and the patrons? How will you manage that?
Yeah, well, one thing Sherelle and Lori are putting together a plan for plexiglass. And you know, we have some places where you can get people 6 feet apart by removing chairs. All the soft chairs are going, and removing some desks. And we decided we'll store, for the meantime, we'll store those pieces of furniture we're not using in the auditoriums, which are not being used for gatherings. But we are going to use plexiglass, and the mayor just said today, I guess the city has gotten some money for that. We had put a small amount in. We were asked to do a small COVID budget at the beginning, I think, right, you know, probably the end of March. And so I had put plexiglass in, but certainly not enough money. It's pretty expensive. And so Sherelle and Lori are working on staff area and patron areas, because we'll have to have the staff stuff in place by the time we get staff in there. And then the patrons will be another few weeks. So yeah, it'll be a combination of we're just not going to have the capacity we had, you know, getting rid of computer workstations and desks. And then where we can't get people 6 feet apart, like in the staff areas, we'll have plexiglass dividers. Sherelle, I'm going to ask you if you have any other detail on that, because I know you guys were talking about that today, different types and such.
Yeah, so basically we were trying to figure out if we would be able to get by with, you know, just separating the desk, the specified amount, you know, of feet, or if we should use plexiglass. And in some instances where we have very small office spaces, and desks, you know, people are facing each other. If somebody sneezes, you know, or if somebody coughs, it's right there. So we were thinking of using plexiglass in those instances. And with like the computer areas, we were thinking of just having, you know, just moving the furniture and making sure that it's, you know, 6 feet or more apart. We have a couple of questions that we're waiting to have answered, but for now we'll get started, like, you know, with staff, you know, situations, and then work our way, you know, over to the public side.
Yeah, it'll be kind of nice.
I have another question. Is there someone on the city side that is like kind of giving approval for different spaces opening up in the city? I mean, like, are you and Sherelle going to kind of determine what is appropriate, or is someone else going to come in and be like, okay, well, and I just was wondering. Like,
so that was one of our questions that we emailed yesterday to find out, you know, and Lamond has been great, and as has the health department. But one of our questions, you know, basically was just that, like, if someone gonna, you know, approve what we're doing, or at least, you know, give us some guidelines. And
the personnel department has set up 2 things. One are guidelines for being in the protocols for being in the building. One sheet, very good. Then the other is a sign-in sheet. We have them in each building every day. So it's for contact tracing. Every day you go in 10 o'clock, you know, actually you don't even have to put the time. Just put that you were in the building, sign off, that you don't have, you know, that laundry list people ask you at the doctor's office and all, do you have headache, you know, all those questions. So, so personnel has come out with that. I'm also going to get a call tomorrow with the head of personnel and Leisha King, who's, you know, the mayor's chief of staff. They're calling all the department heads, a brief call, half hour, about employees, about safety of employees. So that'll be interesting if they have anything to add to that in addition to what they've already given us. We've also said we already have masks and gloves are back ordered, disinfectant spray and sanitizer for all of our employees. You'll see as we get down to at the point when patrons come into the building, we I think our conclusion was today, we're just going to have a sign that says you must wear a mask, but we will have some masks, you know, in case someone forgot it or whatever, but we're going to have get some signage before people enter that they do have to be masked.
Chris,
So,
can I
but
ask? Oh, sorry.
yeah.
I just have a quick question. I
Mhm.
haven't really seen this so much in the US, but temperature checks for staff and for people visiting, especially with little kids. And have you guys
Mhm.
considered that? What's the
I asked Lamond about that because, you know, the structure, you know, he's our boss, and he said, I asked him about temperature checks. So a lot of people do it. He said, no, that's got to be up to the individual person. We'll ask. We can ask people, well, our employees to answer, you know, that one of the questions, but we will not be giving, we will not be doing temperature checks for people. So, yeah, I asked him about that. Oh, here's something else. Oh, this is big news. Coming up, June 18th, testing. There's going to be a pop-up testing site in the main library parking lot. Because you know how you go in one side and come, you know, it actually works very well. And what I was happy about, it's going to be the morning of June 18th, which is next week. And Sherelle has spoken with her crew of guys about it. And we were almost going to put the book drop out there the day before. And so we're holding back on that. This is right now a one-shot deal. It's not going to be every Thursday, but they're going to see how it goes. But what I like the way they did it, like the way they did the food distribution at Sono, where you could walk or drive in, because some things are just for people to drive in, and this way people can also walk in and get the temperature check. But he just, he had mentioned that before, Lamond, and he just confirmed it with the date. I don't have details about the process, but the date is there for the main library, so.
Hey, why don't we keep going through the plan?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, yeah. Oh yeah, you would ask, what are the plans, who prepares? So this, we talked a lot about this today, the cleaning plan. So basically, Sherelle has a plan which she can elaborate with you, but for building services. Okay, so they're gonna take care of the big stuff between our own guys building services, but also building maintenance. Alan Lowe's operation they're actually over there now starting the carpet cleaning. They're doing a thorough building-wide cleaning in both buildings. And then each department will be responsible for their own areas, including public computers. We've just had a discussion about that. And we're not sure how we're going to limit. Is it going to be an hour, half hour, you know, the people's time on the computer? But it will be we will have a staff person assigned to clean after the person is done, and you know, so we won't put, some of the libraries are putting the onus for that on the user of the computer, on the patron, but we're going to have staff be on top of that so that they're cleaned before every use. So those are the plans we'll have. Like, it will probably be in checklist format. Each department's a little different, but they'll have to keep their own areas clean, because the guys, they're going to be having to do the bathrooms so frequent, you know, they're just going to be really have a lot of cleaning work to do. So the individual service areas the staff can handle. Training. Now this is too bad, because we'll share this document, and I asked Lamont, he's going to check with the health department if there was a training for cleaning, Alex brought this up. How do you clean your hands? How do you disinfect, other than, you know, we have wipe down the books, but some kind of it, I would think a video or a safety before we before we open up, things that employees should be aware of. So hopefully they can pull that together by then. But he said he'll take care of that because everyone in the city is going to need it as we open up to the public.
Just to interrupt for our wonderful minute taker from Telesco. Hello?
She's muted.
Okay. You can just, say that we discussed the state's plan on reopening. You don't have to list in detail all of these discussions.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and that's what I said, mask, gloves, and sanitizer. So we're providing that. I'm sorry, this document is a little awkward because I translated it from a
Okay, you're doing
Adobe
fine.
PDF to a Word, so it's a little awkward.
It's going fine.
Okay, yeah, so doing the cleaning. I mentioned the daily log sheets. Supervisors will schedule. Like I said, when we do open for curbside, we agreed on the Tuesday through Saturday, but we're not sure of the time yet. So if you have any suggestions about that, while we were meeting, Dickie looked up all of our neighbors, and she said it is all over the place as far as when they're open. I know Lamont did not want us to be open in the evenings. We thought we'd give ourselves a break for Sunday during the summer, so it'll be Tuesday through Saturday, and we'll figure out the shifts. The thing with us is if we can have our people work no longer than a 4-hour shift, then we don't have to get involved with lunch, which brings in a whole other problem. So, here's the other thing with remote work. So Sherelle and I were just talking about this today with certain employees. So this document started off by saying, if people are working remotely, keep them working remotely. That's sort of the ideal. It set that out. And also the services that we've provided online will continue to provide. But we have made a case for 11 laptops. These are just for employees. So people who can work from home but don't have the wherewithal to do it. So we're expecting that. And we also asked for laptops for patrons when patrons come in. That will allow us to spread them out around the buildings. This, I apologize, this capacity tracking. This is the nut to crack. And I think this is when Alex brought up the, in his, the angry caps we were saying,
No, it's not angry. I just don't know how to do
I
the,
know.
okay.
Yeah, no, and it's workable. Again, we were just kidding. We were talking about people anyway. But we like the idea of the shifts. That was, I mean, Sherelle, don't you think it seemed like everybody today thought that that was a workable way to do it? And then we'll kind of figure out the capacity of each of those areas. And yeah, how many people we can have in the building in each shift, and then do appointments. A lot of the libraries are doing appointments for the use of the computers. And this is kind of funny because this goes back to when we first started having public computers. Everything was appointment only and sign up, and you got an hour. And for the time being, we probably will go back to a model like that. No longer can someone come in the library and sit at a computer all day. So as you can see, we're not really sure. We'll give you some detail on that as we work it through. But this is, and I guess, the fourth phase when we have patrons in the building. So we've got some time to work on this capacity because that won't, first we did the phone line, and now we're doing take the books back, and then we're doing curbside, and then end of July, beginning of August, not sure when, we'll be able to bring people and patrons into the buildings.
Chris Sherrill, can you just describe the curbside part of it a little bit? I'm just trying to get a sense of what exactly curbside means.
Sure.
So, do you want me to take
Go
it,
ahead.
Chris, or do you want?
Yeah, go ahead, and we'll mention the pop-up later too, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So basically, we're still figuring it out, but we're thinking everything by appointment. No one will be able to just walk up and say, that they want something. They would either have to put a hold online, or they would have to call in and say, hey, I want this, specific item, or I'm looking for books or items on, let's just say, the civil rights. So it, just to limit, contact and keep things orderly, it won't be like an impromptu type thing. It would have to be, either phoned in or emailed.
And then you would put that book on a cart outside or something, or?
That's what we're thinking. So that's why we're hoping, to get the guards in place, because we would need someone to manage that, specifically like if we have DVDs out there, DVDs are our highest theft area. So,
Or
so
in a
we're
bag,
still,
right?
pardon?
In a bag with,
They
in a
would be in a
with
bag, but
with somebody's name, and they'd have their card remotely checked out.
yep. And we
Something
would
like
have like a self-checkout station there, or either we would just check them out and put them out with their names on them. But we would need someone to monitor that, so someone's not just walking up and just, hey, free books, free items. So I'm not sure if that answered your question or not.
Yeah, I was just trying to get a sense because I can see it happening in like many different ways. So
yeah, and I guess
Maybe-
with anything, it will be,
we'll have the
trial and error.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm sure it could be modified to
Maybe we'll have the people from Village Gourmet run it.
Oh, one
People
good
with good
idea that
takeout
came up
experience,
was
Yeah.
that they could order with Neoli's. Since we can't have Neoli come back, maybe if they wanted to place an order, they can, have some muffins ready, when they pick up their items. And then the other thing that came up was the pop-up truck, having the pop-up truck outside, where at, both libraries, if people wanted to, then walk up, and look and see what's on the truck.
That makes it a little jazzier and something for the kids.
Yeah, but be careful. Careful about these interactions,
That's true. Yeah. Maybe we can get plexiglass for the pop-up truck too.
Yeah, I'm sure that. But the mayor said specifically, I don't know, the plexiglass people must be thrilled. They specifically got money for plexiglass from the state. Okay, so we already said no fines or fees. We're still wrapping the capacity.
Chris, Chris, we can't understand you.
In-person services.
Your voice.
Garbled? I hate it when that happens. Is it still? It's still garbled? Okay. Sherelle, I can find, do you want to? Why am I muted by the host now? Hold on.
Is there something you want me to explain, Chris?
Why don't you go through it, because we can hear you beautifully, so I don't have the problem with my sound. But
Are you on speaker? Are you on speakerphone?
No, I'm just on the, the computer audio. Can you hear me? What happened?
It's awful.
We can hear you, but yeah.
Are you on your phone? Are you
No.
logged on your phone?
I didn't.
That happens sometimes when you log on your phone and on computer.
Okay.
Kinda
All
get
right,
that
I
feedback.
have it up. Let's see.
Well, Sherelle, why don't you take it, go through, because we already talked about it. We talked about all this stuff, so.
Gotcha. So let's see. Are we on?
I'll do the scroll.
Okay. So what page do you have up, Chris?
Let's see. They put the page at the end.
13.
Book drop. Is that it? Okay, good. Book
I'm
drop.
sorry, what page?
13,
13.
book drop.
Gotcha, okay. Okay, so the book drop, we have, they, pushed the date up from the 20th to the 17th, and I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling to that page. So we'll get the word out, that we'll have, that people can drop off their books. We'll have, the book drops will be open, for 24/7, and, people won't incur fines, throughout the summer. So they won't incur fines through August 31st. And
Can you hear me now? Or am I still sound horrible?
It still
no,
sounds,
it's still bad.
Okay, forget it. Okay.
yeah.
Right. And I'm so page 13.
Yes.
Okay, so I see, let's see, daily health check. So Chris had already mentioned that the city has everybody, there's a sign-in sheet, and it has a list of
It's not on the same.
pardon? Hello?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just lost
We
the
can still hear you.
document.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened.
yeah. It just.
Oh,
Okay.
can you hear me now?
Yeah,
We can hear you. It wasn't you. It's we lost the view of the document.
Oh. All right. Did you get it back?
Chris,
No.
can you try leaving the meeting and rejoining?
Okay, but I'm doing this, the document.
And isn't she the host, or who's the host?
Anthony, Anthony from the city's IT department is the host. I'm the host for the next meeting for the foundation.
Try to stop sharing and reshare the document, Chris.
Well, you know what? I'm thinking if Sherelle can just get there, we're almost done. If we can just, here's the document.
Okay.
I don't, Sherelle can do it, I don't know to.
Sure,
Okay.
that's fine.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're almost at the end anyway. So it's a daily health check. So, the staff daily, whoever comes in the building, even if it's someone just working in the building, they have to sign, whether or not, just to keep us safe. So it has fevers, chills, muscle pains, headaches, sore throat. And if you have 2 or more of those symptoms, you have to report it and probably not show up for work. Signing is just a way of self-reporting. So signing it means that you're verifying that you're fine. Let's see. So with all, employees, they have to adhere, to the guidelines. So again, if they're sick, they're not to report to work until, their symptoms are over, so as not to affect others. And then there's the whistleblower protection. So, we can't discriminate or punish someone who is really concerned about conditions regarding COVID. So if they're afraid, they don't feel that there's enough distancing or, they're questioning things, there, can be no repercussions. And let's see. So I think that was it. If we were on 13, that was basically it, unless I'm missing something, Chris.
Sherelle, the social
Yes?
distance markers, probably can't hear me, I'm sorry. Anyway.
The social distancing markers, is that what you said?
Stop. Yeah.
So basically, we purchased from FedEx, like little pods, well, I call them pods, little decals for the floor, that we can, place like, 6 feet apart so people have an idea of the distancing. They'll have a visual idea. Let's see. And that's about it. Does anyone have any questions?
Listen, this is Ralph. A few questions. I've gone over some of the notes I made when the governor's list was first put on the screen. Several things came to mind. One, make sure the air conditioning is working at a proper level for the building.
Okay.
It's always been a problem in the summer if we had uneven, warm or cool days. That's both for people who work there and the general public. Also, I would also say we stop book donations for the summer. That's bringing a lot of material in with which we will not be able to handle, and it's
Right.
going to be unsanitized. And
Okay.
I mean, that's going to be a problem in itself.
So,
Thirdly,
Ralph,
Yeah.
Go
I'd
ahead.
like to,
Can
I'd
you hear
also like
me? Now that I'm not sharing, can you hear me? No?
We hear you, but it's
we
still
can hear
very
you, but
garbled.
it's still, yeah.
All right,
So she
Also-
probably was going to say that we discussed that today. And so we did decide, because, you know, when we were talking about the book drop being open, that we would ask, Chris, we would both put it in the newsletters and ask people not to donate books at this time.
oh, that's fine. The other thing I want to suggest,
Ralph,
we've always had,
Ralph,
we've always,
sorry.
yeah,
Ralph, can we
Yes.
make an exception for my wife and daughter?
are you asking for an exemption?
Well,
You
you
usually
know.
want to ban them from the library. Any rate, what I want to suggest is that we also consider not having changing displays in the front cabinets, because we do not know where the material comes from. We don't know the individual who's doing the displays. There is enough material in building to have the two cabinets filled during this pandemic period and not have to worry about the handling of it. The other thing I saw in your notes, Chris, which I wanted to mention, you mentioned entrance, especially for the South North Library. It's a bit awkward because of the way that the entrance doors are arranged, but it could be if people come in from parking in one door and use the stair and use the adjacent elevator and the right-hand side door for the exit. It might be a little on a strange side because some people may need the elevator to get in. But the thing is, there are two possible ways of handling it on that same entrance. We fortunately do have two doors going in and out on that particular part of the building.
That's a good point. And we
Yeah,
did
one of the things
discuss it.
I-
It would be,
Sorry,
Go
one of the
ahead,
things I mentioned was that unlike the main branch in South Norwalk, maybe they could figure out some internal patron circulation pattern to minimize intermingling and contacts. Can't prevent it altogether, but at least give people an idea of what's the best route to take once
Got
they're
it.
inside the building.
See, well, where the elevator is really the main entrance for the patrons. And it's awkward because it is both doors are near each other. The front
Mhm.
doors are really a fire exit from the building, and it's all granite steps once you leave the doors. It's not the best arrangement, but who knew about the virus coming along? But I think, I mean, that might work because if you were to even to put a notice that the elevator was to be used only for those who really required it, and not just the general admission, that if they use the staircase, it does separate people entering and exiting that particular part of the building.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think it's the best we can do under the circumstances.
Yep. Got it.
Those are all good suggestions, Ralph. Thank you.
Yep, they are. Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
I have one more. This is Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi, you guys are doing amazing work. Thank you. I just had a quick question. Something that I'm seeing in the community is my friends going out, even though their husbands or their wives are supposed to be in quarantine. So my question is, when you're asking employees if they're sick, are you going to ask them if someone in their household is sick? And if so, is there going to be a minimum amount of time to quarantine them? Because I see a lot of people coming out of quarantine on like day 6.
Mm-hmm.
And with
That's a good
750
point.
people coming in and out.
Mhm. Maybe I should, can you hear me now, by the way? Or do
Oh
I
yeah, we can hear you much better.
Yes.
Yes.
It's like, kills me not to be able to talk. But Anthony, thank you. That was the idea. I got off and got back on again. So as that's how we fix the computers, turn them off and turn them back on. So, but
Chris,
you know, I'll
Chris, I
ask
would like to
Ralph.
talk-
Ralph, right. I'm sorry. Let me just finish that thought with Sharon.
Go ahead.
I'll ask Ray that tomorrow on this call. This call is going to be about employee safety. And that has not come up. It's all about certifying how you are. Have you been exposed? Have you been on a trip? But nothing about family members. And
Mhm.
yeah.
The last thing I wanted to mention, and that is, it's nice to have a computer, but let me tell you, it's just impossible. I mean, what I'd like us to consider, at the next meeting, do we qualify to have our meeting in the auditorium, seating at the white tables, 20 feet apart if necessary, but that room has good sound, it's a good place for meetings, but I'd rather get in my car and go down there for an hour. This has been frustrating to work with Zoom these last 2 times.
I know.
And I love having paperwork right in front of me to discuss.
Yeah.
And I like it when you're talking to a person face to face. And also, it might bring out more members for the meetings, because I do think Zoom is frustrating.
So do I.
Janie and I, yeah, all alone by the telephone. We won't go into that.
Awful.
But the idea is, that there's only, there are 10 of us, and it's a good room.
9.
And I think we can easily be heard, but I think we get so much more done in less time.
I think that's a city thing, Ralph. I can check with the city fathers. They're doing all the public meetings like ours. The library board is a city board.
Yeah.
They're doing them all this way. But I think that's a good point, and I can bring it up and say, we're in a situation, we have a room where we could easily accommodate the board at social distance if we wanted to, and see what their plans are.
Sure.
I don't know. They haven't said anything about plans, just that this is what we're doing.
I always feel like we're in a Saturday Night Live skit in which some newcomer is saying, "Am I on mute? Can you hear me?"
Awful. I know.
My son in California has been attending Quaker meetings by Zoom, which are conducted usually kind of in silence unless somebody is moved to speak. And they had somebody join from a nursing home in like New Jersey. He's in California. And the person in the nursing home was being assisted by a very nice person who didn't know what a Quaker meeting was all about and kept saying into the Zoom, "Can anybody in the meeting hear me?"
Horrible. No.
Okay, I have a question,
Okay.
which is this, that in addition to the state document, there's a one-page
Yeah.
that we distributed that the city, led by Chris and Sherelle, had drawn up. It seems to me in some places there were either some ambiguities or inconsistencies between the state recommendations, our comments, and the very comprehensive good city plan that was drawn up before the state plan came out. So my question to Chris and Sherelle is, are you going to think about revising that one pager before we adopt it? Because, for example, it talks about families making an appointment to be in the children's room, whereas in the document we just discussed, the children's room was going to be closed.
How
Kind
about
of thing. Are you going to another crack at that one pager, do you think?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. We could put our heads together. Even Sherelle and I can do it because we talk so much with the supervisors, and just it's a matter of putting everything together into a revised one pager. And this, you know what, the city wants that from us anyway, because today they called and there was a call with the Parks and Recs and DPW and the library. And they want to know what our revisions are and that kind of stuff to that original plan, because things have changed.
Right.
But we're zeroing in, and yeah, I think what we could do is it won't take a lot of time because we have the framework, and we can just send it to you to send to the board, and
Yeah.
we could have, you know, we'd had a discussion, so sometimes it's nice to see the one pager that's just about us, because the governor's thing was great and we have to abide by those guidelines, but we want what we are going to do each.
Right.
Okay, so did you think about that July 8th? Does that sound okay to you? Or we're going to be a little late to the party, but
So what?
okay.
I had one more I had another question that was kind of related to what Alex was saying. Have you thought about just how to manage children in the library, especially upstairs, and the toys and all of that stuff? I mean, yeah. I mean,
We did discuss it today, and you know, the toys would be put away, and we were trying to decide whether or not, to someone else's point, whether we should, you know, because they're saying only one person in a household should come out. So we were, but at the same time, you know, the city, you know, there's nothing for the kids to do over the summer. So should we have, you know, families come in by appointment, or should it just be, you know, still the one person comes out, you know, to pick up whatever they need? So if you all have any guidance on that or any suggestions, that would be awesome.
I have a suggestion. I would say try to, if you can, think outside the box with space. What space in the community can we use that's outdoors to create programming?
And that's why the pop-up is, even though we had to wait an extra year for it, it's going to be great for the summer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
Just to go back to
my question is, like, I can imagine, you know, when my kids were little, if I were in this situation, I'd be like, okay, the library's open. I have a 2-hour window. I'm going to go sit and read books with them over there, you know, as opposed to, or is it more like, oh, okay, I'm there for a purpose. We're going to quickly pick up our books and leave, you know? I just, is like, I don't know what is.
You know what, Moyna, I hate to say this, and I asked the supervisors if I could have a moment of sadness today. We've been developing public assembly, like guaranteed in our Constitution, and purposeful assembly in our community for the last 5 years. We're moving to a transactional basis, just what you said, for hopefully not forever, but for the immediate future. We are going to discourage people being together. You know, we're going to have them come in, get their materials, and leave. And so much of the programming, and it's wonderful programming that people are doing, and it's online. And I even mentioned to the mayor today, because we were talking about, well, maybe it's summer, we could do some outdoor program. You know, they both Sherelle and Vicky have wonderful performers whom they engage throughout the summer, every summer. And there are restrictions from the governor, I think it's 25 for that kind of a gathering. For sports, for baseball, I guess it's 50 people. They're very specific. I didn't look at the Parks and Rec numbers in the governor's report, but they were talking about it on this call. So it's pretty limited what you could have even outdoors if we did, you know, Ryan Park or Union Park or something like that. So we'll have to look into that. It would be nice. And the mayor even said, he said, oh, that would be great, but they're concerned about people milling together, people making contact with other people. it's miserable, you know, it's, so, yeah, so one of the librarians said that we're moving to a transactional service. And just when Sherelle and I started, that's what we did, transactions in the library. And since then, we've tried to move more towards partnerships and, you know, all kinds of interaction with people. And that's just not going to be allowed for the.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I mean, we don't have to talk about this, but the summer school is opening in July at the schools. It's an option. So that'll
July
be
6th, right? Yeah, that's when we're going to get the pop-up on the road. We'll visit the summer schools too. Yeah. But it's what they were, it's what, 10 kids in a class, right? Yeah,
Have they resolved that officially?
Not
No.
quite. There's supposed to be a call, I believe, today to discuss and debate.
Okay. Anyway, just to conclude the prior item, so what we'll do is when we get the modestly revised one-pager from Chris and Sherelle, I'll circulate that to the board, and I'm going to assume that unless there are objections expressed by email, that we're, as a board, will have endorsed it, you know, in principle. I just think it's important that under state statute and the city code, this board has authority over the facility and programming. So I think it's important that we weigh in, even if it's, you know, more of a response to what the mayor and the staff have developed. So thank you for that. And that was on as an action item for tonight, but we won't be adopting it sort of formally. So are there any more questions about the reopening plan as it's developed? Obviously, this is a work in progress. I send along to the board everything I get about this, which I have to say is not a ton, and I'll keep doing that so that we're all informed about what's going on and the dates.
Alex, I have one more question. It
Please,
does
Bob.
not really pertain to the library per se, but you know, back in September, Neoli Potts made a huge investment in the library by building the cafe, and she still has her commercial kitchen. She has like a lot of expense. What I'm suggesting is, could we do something for the cafe while it's closed? I know for a fact, because I am a patron of the apple pie, she has, I get a pie
And
delivered
cheesecake.
every week. Let me tell you, I don't give it up. But the thing is, she does a lot of specialty cooking and baking, and especially during the holidays. And I'd ask her if she would like, because she's always busy, but that commercial kitchen really requires a lot of work to keep it economically viable. And I would say, I'd ask her, would she like us to at least post a sign on the equipment in the cafe listing all her specialties, what she charges, and if you'd like to order, here's her phone number, and let her handle it from that point on. But I think we owe her that much because she put such an investment into our library, and it's very, very popular.
Yeah.
Well, maybe what we could do, Ralph, is, you know, it's a little bit awkward here where she's a vendor, and maybe the foundation can do something to circulate an email or something about, you know, her specialties and how to order them and stuff. I don't think the public library board can really do that for a private vendor like that. It's a,
Well, the thing is, Alex, but she always put up her own signs anyways. When
I
she
know,
put
but I
up
mean,
her
no one's
price-
going into the library to see her sign. So the point is, we have to find some way to circulate the information to the public who are not allowed into the library. So putting a sign by her shop in the library doesn't do anybody any good.
Well, the people in the library will be walking by those cases. I know they will. At any rate, the thing is, I like us to do something for her because she's put such a commitment to us and making that such a popular spot in the library. And I'd
I
like
thought
to
you
see her.
wanted the cheesecake, not just the apple pie.
Well, I didn't hear that.
Okay. I said I thought you wanted the cheesecake, not just the apple pie.
No, I had to, I'm only doing 50% right now.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good
Of your,
one, Rick.
of your capacity.
My capacity is I haven't gained any weight.
Okay, well, we'll keep thinking of some way to help her out. I mean, she and every other small business and restaurant are really hurting. We understand that, and love to find some way to help her out.
All right, my concern is the commitment she made physically in the library. That was a huge thing for an individual to do.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Alrighty. Thank you, Ralph.
I think you're welcome.
Okay. In terms of the RFP for the architect and city negotiations with the first district, I have no additional news. So going on to Chris and Sherelle, administrative report, item number 6. Anything you want to report in addition to what you've been discussing?
Can we put it off until next month?
Yes,
We've been
absolutely. Okay,
talking about masks and gloves and
good.
thank you.
Anything else anybody would like to bring up before we go to our foundation meeting? Okay, then we'll be, now, customarily, we've not held one of the summer meetings. I think we should just, given the importance of all these activities, have the meeting next month. Seems like July is going to be a busy time at the library, and then decide about August in terms of what Chris finds out about where to meet and how things are going in July, and just decide, how we're doing. Is that okay with everybody? Okay.
Yes, fine.
All righty. Thank you.
I'm
All right. So before we go to the foundation meeting, any other new business anybody would like to bring up? I hope everybody's staying nice and healthy and safe, by the way. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Ralph moves.
I second Mary.
Mary Mann seconds. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Not, then the
Aye.
Board of Directors meeting stands adjourned, and we'll see you in 2 minutes in the foundation meetings. Everybody have
So
that?
where's the link for that?
That was sent as a foundation meeting link. The problem was whoever sent out the board meeting listed it as a trustee meeting. That was the confusion. And
Oh,
it wasn't
yeah.
correct after we pointed
Yeah.
it out. So
People sometimes use that interchangeable, but we don't. It's,
why don't we
So
hang
what
on?
should we look for?
Let me hang on while you look through your email for the trustee link.
right. And this we can just forward to you. It's not like for
Well, let me
this.
tell people what date was it sent out in the email.